Welcome back to the podcast. Today we got Steve Hockman back. Coach Steve, welcome back to the show. Revolution in my life. You've changed my way of being and everything about my body and everything I've learned. It's been incredible. Welcome back to the Future Factory podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
It took a little bit to get started with you, right? My resistance to change was took a little bit to get there, and I just noticed I turned a blind eye to it. I was like, okay, another diet, another idea. This is not going to work. Also, right? I kind of started. I already had a listening for it's not going to work. I've already failed on how many different programs I've worked on, and how many of us start with that?
I think there's two things. I think one is it's really tough to find something that makes sense and that's really good out there. I feel like the way I do it is the best. I know I'm biased, but what I do is just different than what everyone does. I actually reverse diabetes. I reverse high blood pressure, and I get people lean, healthy, and fit without counting calories, doing macros, or starving and eating the most delicious foods. I think the reason why it's so hard for people is I think a lot of people are confident in some areas of their life, but other areas they have lied to themselves a lot of times. They say, I'm going to get up and work out. They don't. I'm going to start eating better, and they don't. And it's just like a friend that you don't trust. You're not going to do something with that friend because you know they're not going to show up. So it just starts with the little things and they manifest into the bigger things. And before you know it, you are that person.
It's funny. I've got one of those friends that he's always like, "Oh, I'm gonna come hang out with you. I'll see you on Thursday night. Can't wait to see you on Thursday night. We're gonna go hang out." And I just here, as his lips are moving, I just know I'm not gonna see him on Thursday. I'm like, "Oh, listen, look forward to seeing you."
Yeah.
I play the game, but here, I know inside it's not gonna happen. And that's the same thing happens with finding a health regimen. I have failed myself multiple times, and it just starts with this place of like, I can't do it, and why? So then why, if I can't do it, I'm going to fail. So why even try?
Yeah, the thing that I found is when you attach something that you're trying to do to a bigger purpose, like so, for instance, if it was cold and dark and rainy out, and you look outside, maybe you're not going to go work out. Like I'll do it tomorrow. It's just the weather sucks. But if it's cold, dark, and rainy outside, and your kids are waiting to get picked up from school, you're never going to do that tomorrow, or you're never going to say, I just wasn't motivated to pick up my kids today. And I think when people, and I'm speaking for myself, when I realized that any pain that I had in my life that I didn't solve, I was agreeing to give it to the people I love because I could only give them that which I have. And if that which I have causes pain, then I could only give them what I know. And I must solve these problems so I could give the people I love the solution. And when I removed myself from everything is when everything started to flow in my life in the best possible way.
Well, and that whole idea of I can't give away what I don't have, right?
Mhm.
That's the airplane, getting on an airplane and saying, "Hey man, you got to put your mask on first, right? If you pass out here in a rapid descent, we're going to do your kids aren't going to have any luck here either. So let's get your mask on first so that you can do the work." And I think that's a big part of looking at who I want to be, right? Starting to figure out, all right, I watch your videos. I get on your Instagram. By the way, guys, if you're going to get on a really badass Instagram, watching Steve's Instagram really does give you daily coaching and daily, excitement to really pull yourself into a future of a body and a way of living and a way of health that, first of all, isn't a struggle, right? It becomes fun, right? It's just like life that pulls me into it rather than the life that pulls me from shame, right? When I open up a magazine, I'm like, oh, I don't feel good enough. I'll never be that guy. That's kind of shame, right? Steve, the way you do it is you really get excited about, how living healthy. What does that feel like? The inspiration that, the energy levels that the people have once they start this lifestyle, right? The amount of energy that the people in your groups have just blew me away, right? By the way, here, I'm experiencing the same thing right now. My ability to be present, my ability to have energy, my ability to flow. Uh, it's not like some hard thing I had to do. It's become a great way of living.
Yeah, I mean, if you really like what I was talking to this lady, a coaching client the other day on our onboarding call, and she was talking about therapy, and she's been in therapy for 12 years, and all these steps and this and that, and I just said, well, I don't know if we need therapy, but what if there was just one thing you focused on, and that is eliminating everything that gives you regret? So, instead of like adding things to your life, what if you just only did things that didn't give you regret? So, if you eat a certain food and you feel regret afterwards when you do the drive of shame on the way home, well, that didn't align with you. If you get mad at your spouse and lose your temper and you regret it afterwards, well, that didn't align with you. And really, like my goal in life to be successful is to be as regret free as possible and to just identify and eliminate everything that I regret. So it really doesn't have to do with like how I eat or what feels good to me. If what you're doing gives you regret in any way when you're done doing either before, during, or after, and you continue to do it, then you'll never be at the best version of yourself. Like it's such an easy thing to focus on. I'm not saying it's easy to fix, but it's an easy thing to identify and know what to do in your life.
Well, it's kind of funny how I can relate to that so much. The man that I want to be, right? The one that's in front of me, the one that I put out there, the way I see my body today, right? The way I look at what longevity looks like for me. As I turn 56, I'll be 57 this year. What's possible in my life today compared to what 47 or 37 look like is unbelievable, right? I mean, this way of a life that is full of vitality and energy. Now, there's going to be breakdown in it, right? Sometimes you'll mess up, but I guess what I've been noticing lately is the way you look at it, the way you talk about it is those breakdowns are kind of a signal that you're trying, right? Maybe some of that shame is really a signal saying, if I didn't have shame, I probably wasn't trying anything, right? Look, if I just ate, all the bonbons and didn't have any shame about it, it was probably, I guess there was no effort, right? But the fact that I'm having efforting and I'm trying it and I'm noticing at a place where that regret you're talking about, maybe that's, it feels bad, but the truth is I'm trying. And at least that's a good signal that I'm growing. And I don't know, it feels like more and more of that's gone away. Now, like the bonbons seem to not even be something I want. We had a party the other day, Easter, and everybody loves bringing, I call their favorite drug of choice sugar. Everybody, they're like dealers showing up at my house with cookies and things. And I don't know, one of these ladies brought some cookies and she handed them to me, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And they're peanut butter cookies. And I thought, oh, you know what? I kind of felt I have the Italian background. I want to eat their cookies that show them gratitude. And I started to put it in my mouth and I spit it out in front of her. And I was like, I mean, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that because I've been sugar free for months. And I was just kind of doing this to please you. And just the thought of relapsing on sugar today, I don't mean any disrespect to you or your cookies and how beautiful of gift this is, but my body and where I'm going is a lot different today than it ever was before. And I'm not, I'm not, I almost, for a second, I almost went unconscious and did that. That was a
That's a
huge
big
change.
move. That's a big
It's,
move that you did. That's a really big time move that you just did. Wow. I'm actually really impressed, and I think people, they seek comfort so much, and the truth is this is like another thing that people have to realize. Like I like to make everything really simple. Like one, just identify and eliminate regret. Like that's so simple, right?
yeah.
The other thing is this, you need pain in your life. Like if you it's impossible to be happy without pain. Utterly impossible. So pain, happiness is a contrast. You can't have hot without cold. You can't have light without darkness. You can't have happiness without pain. So really what it is you got to choose your pain, or your pain chooses you. So I like to choose positive pain. I like to work out really hard, and then I feel really good in the relief of that pain afterwards, and I get the benefit of that pain. Now, if you, like, a lot of people's lives, they go to work that they don't really like. They do the minimum they have to do to keep their job. They stop and get fast food on the way home. Then they get home, they lay on their couch, watch TV, eat some more awful food, and then go to bed late and wake up and do the same thing because they're seeking comfort. And they get more and more depressed while they're seeking that comfort because they don't have the contrast of pain in their life. And once you realize that you actually do need pain, and you stop just trying to seek no pain. It's just, you're just seeking depression if that's what you're looking for. And then you start choosing the pain that works for you, and I don't want to say the pain of eating healthy, because honestly, while it's not the easiest choice sometimes, if you understand ingredients, you could have cookie. I mean, I eat cookies, cake, ice cream, chocolate lava cakes. If you go to my Instagram, you will see these foods that I eat every day. But if you look at the ingredients, you see that the glycemic index, which the glucose that it releases in my bloodstream, is identical to that of broccoli. And that's how I'm at 7% body fat eating cookies, cake, and ice cream. It's just all ingredients. So I kind of found a cheat code to nutrition, but I also realized that you need to seek pain to have happiness.
Do you find some of the foods that we eat are really addictions, right? Can you see that?
Bro, listen, let me just explain how this whole thing works. First of all, if someone doesn't know the glycemic index, they have no chance. Zero chance. Like
None.
not even a little chance. So here's your choices. You could starve yourself and count calories, weigh your food, and be in a constant state of starvation and see how long that lasts. Maybe you lose a little bit of weight and then you go right back to where you were, but now with a slower metabolism. Or you could learn the glycemic index. So the glycemic index is a rating scale for how much glucose enters your bloodstream when you eat any food or ingredient. So when you talk about addictive, the reason why weight and diabetes and high blood pressure and everything is going up so fast is because they're getting so good at ultra processed foods that are so addictive, which happen to be super high glycemic. You know, I'll tell you two things. Number one, like I'll give you an example, Splenda. So if you were to look up right now, the sugar substitute Splenda, this is how deceptive the food industry is and how disgusting it is. If you were to look it up, what is Splenda 95% by volume? You'll see that it's 95% made of two ingredients, maltodextrin and dextrose, and it has 5% sucralose. They market it saying it's made with sucralose, which has zero impact on blood sugar, which is true. They don't tell you that it's 95% maltodextrin and dextrose. So just as a reference, table sugar is a 65 on the glycemic index. We all know how bad that is. Maltodextrin and dextrose are between 100 and 136. It's a complete lie. And it's like that in almost every food that's out there. And without the glycemic index, honestly, it's like you're walking out of your house into a landmine field and you're just getting blown up every day and you don't even know why. And that's just the truth. And that's why people are so unhealthy right now.
Well, all right. So let's do a couple of things. For those audience members that haven't heard Steve's other podcast with us, I want you to get something, right? Let's understand what the glycemic index is. So this was something that was new to me. I did not. It was not calories. So this is going to be a big one. So here, folks, I want you to pay attention right now. This is the thing that's going to be a game changer for you. It's going to take a little bit to get from where you are right now, understanding it, to implementing it in your life. It took me a minute or two to figure out, but once I started seeing it, now it's easy. Now everything pops out in glycemic index numbers, right? It just took a minute to get from what I first saw with Steve, my first podcast with Steve, to today. Now I can see it in literally every food that I eat. So Steve, let's go through that a little bit.
I'll make it really simple. Everybody knows table sugar, like regular sugar, is bad for you. Everybody knows if you eat sugar all day, you're going to have really bad effects. You're going to gain weight. You're going to get sick, diabetes, high blood pressure, all that stuff. So the glycemic index of sugar is 65. That represents how much glucose enters your bloodstream when you eat any food or ingredient, is the numbers of the glycemic index. So we know 65 is bad because we know sugar is 65. What happens is when you get a giant glucose spike, your body releases insulin to take the glucose and absorb it out of your bloodstream into your cells. When it's in your cells, it gets converted to fat. That's why calories don't really matter, because if you're doing this glucose fat process all day, you'd have to go so low in calories to combat that you're literally starving, and now you're losing your muscle, you're miserable. So the only way to be lean for the rest of your life and to be healthy and to not count calories and starve is to cut out the foods on the glycemic index, which cause that glucose, insulin response, and fat storage. So, everybody knows the one word sugar, but there's like 1,000 other ingredients that actually are more glucose releasing than sugar. So there's a lot of sugar-free foods out there. They love saying sugar-free. Well, dextrose isn't classified as sugar, and dextrose is actually sugar in its purest form. So something could say keto, sugar-free, net carbs, zero this, zero that, and you look at the ingredients, and there's potato starch, which is a 90 on the glycemic index. More glucose gets released by potato starch than sugar. Dextrose, which is 100, maltodextrin, which is 136. So the only way, like you're so screwed in life if you don't know the glycemic index. And, Anthony, in my life, just so you know, two things are happening right now. One, I have a book that's coming out in 2 months, a big publisher. It's going to be a huge book on everything we're talking about. But the other thing that happened is 5 months ago, I did a video on how to reverse diabetes. I've had, thousands of coaching clients, and the ones that happen to have diabetes and they came to me for fat loss, they no longer have diabetes because of the way I eat. It's so easy to reverse this fake disease. And I mean
Gotcha.
it, it's
That's right. No,
fake.
I got it. Same here. Same here. My sugar levels are dramatically down. When I go to the doctor and go through that whole, I was
Doctors,
pre-diabetic.
man. Ugh, doctors.
Steve, I
So
was pre-diabetic before I started with you.
so
Literally on the
and,
line. My doctor was
and
like,
now it's
"Hey,"
fine. Yeah,
and
now
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 I'm gone. My doctor's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Look, it's just this glycemic index thing." She looks at me like,
they don't know
"Anthony,
what it
this
is.
is." She doesn't get it. It's not
Yeah.
something they train them in.
So I did this video on diabetes because I just had one, I was with one of my diabetic clients that wanted to lose weight. She no longer has diabetes, had it for 20 years. And I made this video because I was kind of just frustrated at the industry. And that video changed my life. I started getting 1,000 to 1,500 messages every single month. And it's crazy because now, like, I'm like the fat loss expert, but I almost exclusively work with diabetics now, and I'm reversing diabetes every single week. And these people that have been to doctors that have had diabetes for 20 years, 30 years, 10 years, 5 years, not a single one of them out of the 5,000 people I talked to in the last 5 months have ever in their entire life heard of the glycemic index. And that's because doctors, when they see you every 3 months because you're on a forever prescription, they get to bill your insurance for a metabolic disease, a metabolic syndrome. If they cured all their patients that are on these forever drugs, they would just go out of business because they wouldn't have patients anymore. I mean, how often do you really see your doctor? Maybe once every 2 years if you're really sick. These guys have to see them every 3 months for these diabetic drugs. And then the same cause of diabetes is actually glucose that causes high blood pressure. So now they're on two medications, and now they get to bill the insurance for cardiovascular disease and metabolic syndrome. And what I've learned in the past 5 months of speaking with over 5,000 people through my Instagram and on the phone with over 200 people is that if you don't understand the glycemic index, you don't know what numbers do what, you literally have no chance. And when you do understand it, you could have perfect blood sugar from diabetes within a week and reverse it within 90 days. And it's so sad that people have and this is gross, but their limbs amputated, nerve damage, blindness. It's disgusting, and it's a racket. And I'm out there now every single day reversing diabetes. I have a call right after this podcast with a lady that has diabetes, and we're gonna reverse it for her. And
So
mhm.
as we start to train humans, and this is where, look, when you say a new idea, glycemic index, this is what happened to me. I'm going to just take you through my journey with
Yeah.
Steve, right? My journey with Steve was glycemic index. Oh, is this just another one of those fad things? My brain, that week I was in the gym, I was working out, and I had a video about eating vegetarian, and it was a direct contrast to the eat meat, go all carnivorous, and like I remember being in the gym and I was cussing at my headphones, like I was like, come on. What am I supposed to do here? I look, all I want to do is be healthy, and I got go all carnivore, go all meat, go keto. Keto's the way to go. And then the next video is, now listen, it's too much animal fat. You got to go all vegetarian. And the sense of being helpless
Mhm.
was where I was at in that moment. And then we did a podcast that day, and I remember thinking, okay, I got to learn this glycemic thing. What is this hocus pocus? It sounded so frustrating. Now, here's one way you guys to get. We're gonna put a chart down below. We're gonna put a link down below in the notes here. It's gonna show you the glycemic index. Once you get this, it's not hard to figure out. It's not even, in fact, your phone, I can all day long, if I don't know something, I can literally ask Siri, or I can ask, I've created an AI. Her name is Zoe. I ask Zoe, hey, Zoe, check the glycemic index of whatever it is I'm about to eat, or if I have a
Well,
question
yeah.
about something. So
Mhm.
it becomes a lot easier to understand it. But once you get this piece, Steve, and then so let's go through. Once you understand the glycemic index of it, there are times when you can have. There's a couple of places where, like, after a really big workout every morning, I take a handful of berries and they go into my yogurt, which has, I put a scoop of, I have a low fat yogurt, or I mean, like I use that Frelo, or the Greek one, and then I put 2 scoops of protein in there, and then I'll put like, I don't know, I may call it 15 or a handful of berries in there, blueberries, and that's an amazing breakfast for me now, and it satisfies me for most of my day.
Yeah, right after you're done with your workout, you do need to replace the glycogen, which is the stored sugar that you just burnt off. So that's actually the time to eat that. Now with AI, like with ChatGPT, you could actually just tell it this. You could say, by the way, it's not low, medium, and high. Those things don't matter. Just so you know, they just
Okay.
divided the glycemic index into just different categories. Low actually goes up to 55. Table sugar is 65. So you could be on a low glycemic diet and still have all the bad things happen. The magic number is 25 that
Yep.
you actually have to stay below not to have that glucose insulin response. And what you could actually do with ChatGPT is just tell it. You could say, remember this from now on. Anytime I take a picture of ingredients, I want you to list out the glycemic index of each ingredient. I want you to put a red X on the ones above 25 and a green check mark on the ones below 25. And now instead of Googling, all you have to do is literally, if you're in the store, take a picture of ingredients, upload it to ChatGPT, and it'll instantly tell you the glycemic index of each ingredient and tell you which ones are okay and which ones aren't. And then you could ask ChatGPT for alternatives where every ingredient is below 25. It's actually really, I have my coaching clients do that now. It's actually really easy. I'm actually creating an app pretty soon that does all this. I have a meeting this week, but it's actually easier than you think. It's really easy to do.
So go back to the prompt again. So guys, every one of you got some chat bot somewhere. You got either Meta or you got your, all of us have it. So don't tell me you don't have it. And so Steve, let's go through. What's the prompt how are you prompting it again?
Yeah, so I use ChatGPT just because I know that works for sure. I have the paid version. You don't have to have the paid version. It's like $20 a month. You tell it this. You say, "Remember this forever." You have to tell it, "Remember this forever." Um, Anytime I take a picture and upload it of ingredients, automatically without a prompt from me, list the glycemic index of each ingredient and put a red X next to the ones that are above 25 in the glycemic index and a green check mark next to the ones that are below 25 in the glycemic index. Do this without me prompting you and remember this forever. If you say that to ChatGPT from now on, anytime you take a picture of ingredients or a recipe or anything, like even if you have a recipe and like 3 of the ingredients are above 25, just tell it, make me a new recipe where they're all below 25. And it'll just, in a second, give you a new recipe. Like now with the technology, the way it is, this is the easiest thing in the world. And like with pizza, right? So pizza, the enriched flour that they make it with is about 80 on the glycemic index, which means you have more glucose than table sugar. And also the cheese, just so you know, shredded cheese that is pre-shredded, they use cornstarch to separate the cheese, which is at 90 on the glycemic index. You could make your own pizza and just switch it out with almond flour, which is a 5 on the glycemic index, and shred your own cheese, which is a 0 on the glycemic index. You could eat pizza that has a glycemic index less than a piece of broccoli. I have 7% body fat. And don't forget, I used to be 300 pounds, and I am 51 years old. By eating pizza, cake, ice cream, chocolate lava cakes, and chips. It's because I understand ingredients. Everyone who wants to count their calories, weigh their food, and starve, it's now, if you hear this podcast, it's by choice. You're suffering in that way by choice. It doesn't have to be that way. That's why I wrote a book. My book should have been called "It Doesn't Have to Be That Way." Honestly, I should have actually
Right.
called it that. Maybe it's not too late to change the title. I kind of like that. It doesn't have to be this way.
No, but Steve, it's like it's been, and I feel like I'm still in the amateurs. And when I look at some of the bodies that you've created from the human beings and yourself, and just look, the 25 pounds I'm at, I'm going back and forth on somewhere to get up. I'm like, I'm down 25, and then somewhere to get up. Just I'm in that stage right now where it just it depends if I went to the bathroom or not. And I want it every day. So it's been it's coming off on a steady space, right? It's not like I'm diving 5 pounds a week. It's just a good steady drop. Right. I feel really great about it. And my energy level is higher than before. I just went through a hernia surgery and my doctor's like, thank you. He looked at me and goes, thank you. He goes, you walked in here 15 pounds lighter than when I first met you. He goes, you
You
made
made
my
his job
job
easier.
easier.
Yeah.
You took the pressure off those stitches that are in there. And he goes, you continue doing this as you heal. It'll be better for me and the work that I did here. I'm going back for
I'm going to make a suggestion to you. I want to make a suggestion. My suggestion is this. All right. Instead of weighing yourself, you can weigh yourself, do it once a month.
Yeah.
Like, don't do it more than once a month. But listen, I'll tell you why. Every single week, in the same lighting in your bathroom, take a picture from the front and the side with the shirt off. And there's an app like Picture Collage where you can put pictures side by side. Compare the pictures. And the reason why is as you gain muscle and as you lose body fat, there's going to come a time where the weight's not going to come off, but your body's still transforming. And that scale will throw you off. You'll get frustrated.
Yeah.
You'll start eating less. You'll start trying to manipulate these numbers on the scale with your food, but the numbers are one dimensional. They're not actually showing you what's going on. The pictures will show you. I don't have people weigh themselves. I only go with pictures, and I do them once a week, and that's the best way to measure your progress.
Yeah, it's been a little frustrating with this hernia scar. I'm like, damn it, I got my summer's starting to look like Frankenstein as an old man. I'm like, okay, but I'm with you. And I can feel that. Like I can definitely feel like my muscle have gained. This last 6 weeks of repair on the hernia, where I'm spending a lot more time walking than I am lifting or doing the core exercise that I was doing. It really felt like all that stuff was doing great. This few, let's call it 8 weeks of off the core, and I'm doing a lot of walking. So I'm putting a couple thousand steps or 20,000 steps a day, and I feel like that's a good, keeping the cardiovascular going. I feel like I'll get back to the other core exercises shortly, but that's what he's asked me to do. He said, hey, look, just take it easy on these stitches for, let's call it 6 to 8 weeks. And then once we get back together, I can start to release you on some light core stuff again. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. That's fair. So
Yeah, I'm impressed that you've lost 25 pounds just from the information you got from Joe, who learned from me.
that's right.
You know, especially without coaching, it's funny. There's so many things. Like you know one thing right now, which is the glycemic index,
Yeah.
and a little bit of like sort of what a strategic carb timing meal is after a workout. But there's so many techniques to add to that that'll get the results so fast. Like you really should lose in 12 weeks doing it the right way. You should be down about 30 pounds.
Wow.
Like, I'm not about weighing people, but like,
Yeah.
I understand, weight. Uh, if you really do it like full on, with the little techniques, like the 36-hour fast that I have people do, a very, very specific way to do it. You could do it wrong and totally gain weight. Actually, you should be down 30 pounds in 12 weeks.
So
If
let's
you
talk
do
a little bit
all the
about
techniques.
let's talk a little bit about fasting. How are you doing with fasting? What's the kind of the fast techniques? You get so
Yeah.
many of it.
No,
Intermittent
I'll tell you.
fasting.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you right now. Well, first of all, I'll tell you what people do wrong. What people do wrong is they go through all this like work to fast, and then they break a fast the right way and gain it all back. So what happens is when you break a fast, no matter what you eat, you get a massive insulin spike. Your body's trying to absorb everything. So if your first meal that you eat when you break your fast is with fat, that insulin will absorb the fat directly into your cells, and you just store it. You just gained back a lot of the fat that you lost. And then it's heartbreaking to see people do it wrong. So the way I do it is like this. When I do a 36-hour fast, which is the best fast to do for losing fat, you're only not eating for one day. So let's imagine today is Wednesday. Let's
Okay.
imagine today we're going to work out. So why are we working out? First of all, we want to start depleting the glycogen, which is the stored sugar in our cells. Once we deplete the glycogen, our body switches fuel sources to fat. So our goal is to get to that switching from sugar to fat as a fuel as fast as possible, because now we're burning fat. So we have a good long workout today. We do not have a strategic carb timing meal today. So we're not eating berries or anything like that. Everything is below 25 in the glycemic index. So we don't want to replace the glycogen we just burned. Now, tomorrow, and we drink, it's a drink with like electrolytes, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, some cayenne pepper. It makes you not hungry, and it stabilizes your blood sugar levels. Now, the reason why most people are hungry is they're a little dehydrated, and your hypothalamus starts sending signals of hunger, which it's like hunger and thirst get crossed, and that's why people have a hard time. So now tomorrow we're not going to eat, but we are going to drink that drink I told you. We're going to drink like a gallon of it. You will not be hungry at all. And we're going to have a good long leg workout. Legs burn the most glucose. So by tomorrow, we're going to deplete glycogen and we'll be in our fat burning state. We're only using fat for fuel. You'll actually have a ton of energy, by the way, and you'll feel great. Now we're actually burning straight body fat. Now we're going to go to sleep. Now, tomorrow when we wake up, we're going to go for, I like to do a hike. So I like to do about a 2 hour hike because it's all legs, massive glucose, which there's no more glucose in my body. So it's massive fat burning. And when I break my fast, I'm going to have the strategic carb timing meal. So no fat. I'll use fat-free Greek yogurt, like maybe a couple small red potatoes, half a cup of blueberries, and 1 or 2 scoops of whey protein. And then I'll wait a couple hours after that until I eat a regular meal. Now, what'll happen is every time on average you do this, you will actually lose 2 pounds of actual real body fat. And that's why I said, so in 12 weeks, that's 24 pounds of body fat. Now, when people lose 24 pounds normally, they're doing it starving. So half of that weight is actually muscle. So when you lose 24 pounds of fat, you look like a completely different person. It's way more than you've ever seen change from any 24 pounds you've ever lost because you're not losing any muscle. And so, in 12 weeks, the fat that you're going to lose just from eating the right way and doing these fasts, that's why I said you'll lose about 30 pounds in 12 weeks. You like Anthony, you could actually have abs in 12 weeks at age
It's
50,
awesome.
56. Did you say 56?
Yeah, I'm close there now. Look, I'm almost there now. I'm Steve. I'm telling you, there's not a lot of fat on the exterior of it. My doctor's like, look, you don't carry it on the outside. He was looking at it going, really, you got a lot of stuff interior, but on your transdermal level, on the outside of it, goes, you're not carrying a lot of it. You're going to start seeing these abs pop up here pretty soon. And look, I think that's another one to go. I haven't thought about that. I think again. I was kind of coaching through one of your students, right?
Yeah.
Was resistant to it, and Joe's got me drinking the cayenne pepper water and drinking and we're doing about a gallon of that. He and I are splitting about a gallon a day. I'm trying to get to a gallon. How much of that do you drink a day?
I drink a gallon, so I have a half gallon hydro flask. And what I do, honestly, in the morning, I just start kind of guzzling it down in the morning. So I get through
Just
that first.
first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I have coffee first thing in the morning, and then after that, I start drinking this drink. By 11 or 12, I'll have a half gallon done, and then I'll do the other half gallon throughout the day. So I
Are
try to
you
get
doing
that first one kind of fast.
Are you doing any other supplements like an AG1 or any other kind of supplements you're bringing
No,
into your
nah.
life?
No, I don't. No, I honestly, the only supplements I take are I take vitamin D and I take like a sleep supplement with magnesium and some things for deeper sleep. But no,
Yeah.
I'm not a big supplement guy. It's funny. It's like let's say your car was covered in mud, and you're talking about like what kind of wax can I put on this mud to like move the mud around, and that's what people usually do. They focus on everything, but they focus on the things that give you like a 5% advantage once you're perfect, but you don't notice any of those things when you're eating wrong. Like a supplement is not going to counter the effect of massive glucose throughout your body.
Yeah.
So I don't really take any supplements, to be honest with you. Creatine, I take creatine.
Before
Creatine is
workout?
actually very, very good for you. I actually take it after my workout. It
Okay.
doesn't matter when you take it. So, with that SCT meal, with the strategic carb timing meal, with the carbs that we're
Yeah.
talking about, that little bit of glucose spike is a transporter. So because of glucose, your body releases a little insulin, and that insulin will absorb the creatine into your cells where it could actually be used. A lot of people take creatine and it just goes through their body because they're not taking it in the right way at the right time.
Interesting. So I've been doing a couple scoops of that whey protein with the yogurt. So are you saying get a little creatine in there as well?
Yeah, 5 grams would be perfect. That's
Cool.
one serving is basically
Like
five
one
grams.
scoop. I don't know, whatever those
It's
scoopers come
it's
in.
always 5 grams. Those scoops are always, and just get just a regular creatine monohydrate, not the fancy stuff, just creatine monohydrate. Hmm.
Oh, cool. Look, I think these are the things that it's fun finding. You know, I think a lot of us, including or me, I read. There's too much data, right? Everybody thinks that data is all great. The books will drive you nuts. I mean, you got longevity books and these books and
Yeah.
those books. Finding a coach, right? It's kind of like in AA, they say get a sponsor. When you get, five sponsors, you're looking, the truth is, I think you're looking for the answer you want. Finding a coach to guide you. And Steve, I think it's that spot where I'm seeing the value of it through Joe. Now getting that next level up, I think it's a gift, and just I'm glad to have you on the show to push me a little further into that. Thank you.
100%. I love it. I love hearing about it. That's so cool. I was actually wondering if you were like, if you were doing it, so I'm glad to hear
It
that
took
you
me a
are.
minute. It took me a minute. So Joe started working together with me over back in November, and since November, it's been just this great gift of deep diving into it. And now, like, I haven't had sugar. I haven't had like any processed sugar in a long time. I'm eating cleaner. Um, I'm feeling healthier. I'm feeling way more stable. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get great workouts in every day. I'm doing a lot more meditation where I feel like mentally I've slowed down. But the other things are happening, like in the business world, it's growing dramatically, right? Where I can focus at the office a lot better. You really start to notice those sugar spikes took me out a lot. Now maybe I got to look at caffeine. I'm still doing 2 cups of coffee a day. I'm not sure if that's gonna where
I
that
don't think there's
impacts
an
me.
issue with that. Honestly, like you can't even compare caffeine and sugar. You don't get diabetes from caffeine. You don't get high blood pressure, like chronic high blood pressure from caffeine. You don't get dementia or Alzheimer's from caffeine. You don't gain weight from caffeine. I mean, like I'm not even worried about caffeine. I actually think if it's used the right way, it's actually a really great tool, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think that's fun. Um, Look, I'm going to put a lot of stuff down below, folks, for you guys to get connected with Steve. It behooves us to find coaches like Steve that can transform our lives. Look, in today's world of misinformation, and we're up against a food industry that's working against us, and a pharmaceutical industry that's working against us. Finding those lights like Steve that light up this world that really, it just reminds me of the Greek church my wife goes to, right? For Easter, you go to this great ceremony where the priest comes in, they turn off all the lights, and the priest comes in and he lights the first row, and then they light the second row, and then they light the third row, and what happens is a light like Steve is something that emanates throughout a community and through us. Look, he lit up Joe. Now Joe lit up me, right? And I feel like that's the gift of having great coaching. And Steve, you are a light to behold. And I'm grateful to have you on this podcast. I hope I can the world can see you brightly, and we can get it out to as many people as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that, Anthony.
Keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing, folks. I'll put all the links down below. Steve, thanks for being on the show. Hey, audience members, last week we had over 3,500 downloads. It was unbelievable. We broke 68,000 subscribers on YouTube. Just with the stuff that we're breaking through has been amazing. If you guys could but we noticed that a bunch of you made it to the end of a podcast and you weren't subscribers. If you could take a second and like and subscribe, it gets us amazing guests like Steve on here. Those numbers do make a difference in the guests that we get to get. So if you get a second, please go down and like and subscribe now. And as always, thanks for listening.